Okay. Hello everybody, Gen608 here. This is my continuing stream series of Unconditional Surrender in Europe. This is the main event scenario. If you like what you see, please hit the thumbs up button. Helps the algorithm of YouTube. It also motivates me to keep trying to produce these things, these streams. Normally I either stream or put up videos for Hex Encounter board games. I also am trying to do a stream on the an old classic role-playing game on the computer I found on Steam called The Bard's Tale. I will do that tomorrow morning. As for this, if you really like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. Then you can hit the notify button, and anytime that I schedule a stream or I post up a video, you'll be notified and you can go see if you want to watch it. Alright, I think that takes care of the business end. So let's get right into this. I don't have a whole lot of time this morning, so I'm trying to see how far I can get. We are, for a quick recap, if I can find my mouse, there it is. This is called the, I call it the CUCU strategy or whatever. It stands for Cripple the UK Collapse the USSR. I've done very well because I made a mistake with the USSR and stood on the wrong defensive line. It's either in, I think it was in August. I stood too close to the German army. I tried to stand along Kharkov, Kursk, Orel type line. Should have made that stand there. I should have backed up in August, made my September stand along the Don, and I wouldn't be quite where I'm at because you had only had one turn and I would be up in the upper 30s instead of in the upper 20s. So now I have the Russian winter to try and recapture some of this, some cities and things. And the Germans will be setting up to try and stop me from doing that. Stop the Russians from doing that. Not a lot going on in the West. We're not going to one war at a time. That also applies to the British. One war at a time. The Germans really don't have a lot to do with their minor allies at this point. I mean, I don't see me, because we're under severe in Russia for the whole Axis army. So other than moving some guys around to make sure that they're not in vulnerable positions, you know, for those that I see, I'm not really seeing a lot of a lot of miners moving at this point. Yeah, I think I'm going to need the points with the Germans because I think I'm going to have to readjust the German situation here. I might even have to pull the line back a space. Not sure yet. I'm kind of in position where I need to be. The one real weak point is possibly Razan. But I don't know of any way I can really make it stronger, so to speak. Since he's right adjacent to it, I have to keep somebody like either in 23, 57. No, I'm not going to give any points to anybody. Now I come to strategic warfare. Russians have one partisan. A lot of people will use it immediately to try and take out the German production. But the Germans will, if you go look at the, quick, where am I? Boom, 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 boom. Let's go look at the production track here. So very next turn, he's going to get submarines. And that's when the British get their Ultra. Right now, the British don't have an Ultra in their pocket. So my thought is, I want to coordinate my strategic warfare against the Germans. So I'm thinking we will wait till next turn. And then we'll use the Russian partisans by having them in their pocket, they threaten to possibly blow open a hole in the German line because they can make a German infantry unit be a 0. And a 0 in severe against like a +4 or 5 for the Soviets can create a hole. So the Germans are going to have to make sure that they're defending in depth with some reserves and things, which might make them just fall back a little bit, even without me actually doing a major attack. Right now in December, I think when we spend most of my time just getting the Soviet army close enough to the Germans to be able to attack. And then in January of 42, with the West having an ultra and me possibly still having my partisans, then we can both hit the Germans at the same time. Their submarine can only affect one of the battles. They'll probably use it against the West. That's an interesting point. Means they would recover. So maybe I do use it now. Try to get ahead of them. Yep, I guess we'll use it now. I really hate giving up the partisan because of its possibilities over here. Let's take a look at the map first. First off, let's make the map a little bigger so we can actually see this in a more strategic sense. Knowing the Germans are going to get to move first. So where are they vulnerable? They're vulnerable here, where the 3rd Panzer is. I'm talking about where are they vulnerable, where if I made them retreat, I could actually do something with it. They only retreat back to here, so that doesn't really break me through anywhere. It's -2 in that hex, and I can only get 3 guys on it. Probably not the best attack. Ryazan is a place where if I could get a decent wave attack, I could possibly break through. I think more of the breakthrough spots are going to be either this infantry here, the 9th, or even the 1st Panzer, where I can get to like a plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can't get there yet. So it would have to be... Yeah, I really can't do anything this turn. It's very sad. I mean, I can push him like a hex, but I don't think I can get one of those... I don't see me being able to get a +5 except against this infantry, and this is cut off by these extra zones of control. What you want to try and do with the Russians here is you want to blow up like this infantry or this armor. If you can destroy it with your in poor weather, that's a possibility. You know, like of getting a DD and then following up with another unit that blows it up, and then have another unit after that that just runs, you know, back to the back German line, forcing the Germans to turn around and come back. I don't see any of those kinds of attacks here because I'm just a little too far away. And this guy here can't move because he was strategically... Oh no, he can move this turn. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and use the partisan. We're going to start working on the German. Since he gets a sub next turn, it's probably going to be able to recover. I want to be able to have the chance of maybe keeping him at 2 lost factories by, you know, winning in the east and then losing one in the west. Or is that worth it? Is it worth it to even try? What can I do with the... I think with the partisan I can do more damage. Yeah, I'm not going to use it. So we're going to be at +3 to plus... Yeah, because I'm ahead of the axis as it is. So I'm +3 to his +1. We're just going to go. And I did get in German factory loss. Yay. But then you go into the west, and it's +4 to +2 in the German favor. So we need really lucky die roll split here for the west to make us effective. and we didn't get it. So the British factory loss went up again, but you can't go any higher than 9. And the Germans got their factory back. So it's probably a better thing that I didn't use the partisan, because they would have gotten it back anyway. And now I have it for, operations. All right. So now the Germans can do a strategic move. I'm going to make you go, huh? The Turks are sort of like on their defensive line forever. The Russians might actually try to go after them. Have a German airplane on the way, but I mean, we're severe down here too, so it's kind of like nobody's going anywhere this turn, hardly at all. Except in the east, there's really not going to be much of anything, because the British can't even do a surprise invasion because severe precludes invasions. So, and the one possible vulnerable place they could be would be like Tripoli, which is well garrisoned. I mean, I could land in Benghazi, but then I'd have trouble with supply, and I'm not set up to invade back into Suez, because I'm hanging on to Basra and Kuwait to affect the strategic warfare die rolls. Okay. What are we going to do with the Germans? And as far as, well, that's what we need to double check. So the Germans have nothing to build. The British have an airplane that they're going to try and get out. The Russians have 4 armies they're going to put on the board. So the Russians can start to position themselves. Probably not going to be any spectacular, combats here, per se. Especially if I can pull the German army back a space, which I think I'm going to do. Yeah. Because for 3 turns I'm in severe and he's in poor. Yeah, I don't know. Do I bring a minor? Part of me wants to do something up here, but unfortunately it would be like this guy that I would want to move, and he's going to move by land to accomplish anything. So I am running out of ideas here on what to strategically deploy. I suppose I could take this garrison out of Bremen. I really don't need him there. He's not doing anything. Let's take this guy at the 7th garrison, I think that is. And we're going to go bolster up this Leningrad front here a little bit. So I'm kind of worried that I'm holding only with miners up here, which is a little scary. So I'd like to have a garrison over here to at least I'd like to have a German army. Can I put the garrison somewhere else? Right. No, I want the garrison in lousy terrain, right? So I want to put the garrison in a position where even if he blows up a unit over here, he can't really run very far. So where would I put him? Here? No, I put him here. That looks like a good place. So now I will wait for him to take the long train from Germany into northern Russia. It is moving, isn't it? He does, the programming is calculating down those rail lines like the best path to get where it needs to go. Tries to do it in the shortest number of rail line moves, which, in this case there were 3 different routes that it could have gotten to this hex up here. One this way, would have gotten through that one, and then he could have gone down through Velaluki to get to that. So, alright, so that's what the Germans are going to do. West can't really do anything, because the only place I could do a strategic move is England. I'll double check that, but like this guy can't strategically move a space up because of this. Notice the British are now up to a grand total of 10 production points. This is important because it now means that I can replenish like both convoys and the airplane this turn if I do like next to nothing. If I mess around, move a 2-point unit or something, or maybe even move, let's say I attack with Western Desert Force and this British Army against the Italian, trying to push him out, which is something you can do. I still would have 7 points left, which would allow me to do like both convoys, or a convoy and an airplane. So I now am at the point where I can basically start replenishing 3 units a turn. In severe weather here, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do like 2 3s on the board and maybe one of my fleets. Like home fleet or med fleet here, which is at 4. I do have the American fleet now. So I have a feeling that that American convoy, it's going to end up where one of those British convoys is. Because, the Americans, it's action economy, production point economy. Means the British can do 2 3s down here, right? And then like work on their fleet, or possibly work on getting the BEF down here into the Arabian Sea and stuff like that to start threatening Suez. So that's the goal there. Okay. Yeah, they're not going to do it. Soviets, do we have a strategic move? I think the Turks are pretty much contained. One of the reasons why this airplane is here is it's 5 hexes to Tiflis. So I can defend there. Do I really have a strategic move? See, one of the things with the Germans breaking through like they did is it's like this part of the front is on its own, from just south of the restricted area down into the Caucasus. That's their own little front. And then you've got sort of the central front here. This arc here is kind of trapped as well. I think this guy can still move. So like this line here is kind of its own line. And then everybody else up to here it's like you have these little segmented patches of the Russian army. It's like you don't have early on in Barbarossa, you have this huge mobility advantage in the strategic movement phase, because you can bounce through Moscow and basically go anywhere from the north to the south, or from the south to the north, or whatever you need to do. You can always like move one guy sort of in the way of the German army so that the rest of the Russian army can survive and stuff like that. Right now, I don't have that anymore. That's part of my problem here, is that I don't have that mobility. So I'm trying to figure out if there's really a good strategic move here, and it looks like, so you got to remember, I only have 18 production points with the Russians. That's the other bad thing, having lost Rostov. And the Urals factories haven't really kicked in. I think Lend-Lease kicked into this turn. So I've got 4 extra factories, and then I only have 6 factories minus 1, which is 5. So that's 9, and then next turn I think I go up to 20. So this turn might be a turn of moving a handful of units, building those 4, and bringing down my airplanes into, as close to 0 sorties as I can, so that I can mount a proper offensive possibly in January. I don't know. I always find myself in this quandary with the Russians. It's like you want to take advantage of this winter weather, but sometimes, like when you mess up like I did, you can't really take care of all 3 turns. All you can do is like close this turn, right? And by closing up the line, then the Germans can know that it's going to be coming in January or whatever. And with only severe, they can't do a lot. So the idea here is to threaten to isolate a unit or 2, maybe break through and recapture a city or 2. Still, even if I get 2 cities, let's say I've got fabulously lucky and I take Razan and whatever this city is, Lorenza. Even if I took back those 2 cities, killed a couple of German units and pushed them back behind the river, by summertime the units will be rebuilt. He'll be static along this line, and the German army I still don't have quality. I mean, I'll start getting some armor in the summer, but my quality is my shock armies. So the German army will, knock out whatever shock armies are on his front first, and then he'll just go clean up the Russian armies and retake those cities and kill probably half a dozen armies. And right now, the biggest thing I can't do is really lose a lot of Russian armies because he's running out of cities. The Germans are running out of cities here. With what they have... Whoops. Stop it! I mean, they have to go to like Stalingrad, Saratov. They have to take Moscow, Kalinin, Yaroslavl. That'd be 2, 4. 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's still only 12 of the 28. 13, 14 for Granzi, 15, 16 for Akastran, 17, 18 for Tiflis. So even if they overrun the Caucasus, they still have to find 10 more will points. There's only 4 in easy reach, Vologda and, once again, they hide the names on me, Volkhov. So even if he takes Moscow and cleans me out to the sphere and, what's that one? Sukhana? Or Sushana? Don't know how to pronounce it quite correctly. So even if he pushes me back to those rivers and takes all those cities, as long as I don't lose like 10 or 12 Russian armies, I'm okay. I'm still in the game. So the Germans have to find a way to kill Russian armies too, which is something I have to keep in mind come like March and April. I need to seriously think about the Russian position and say, how do I preserve armies? Even if I have to lose, those cities, preserving the armies are far more important in 1942 here for me to be able to stay in the game and not get collapsed. So now if I was in the upper 30s, if I had not lost all those armies, maybe only half of them, and still had Ryazan and Florenz down here going into the winter, it'd be a much tougher fight for the Germans because they'd be trying to get through 30-some points. And I could actually try and stand a bit with the Russian army. As it is, I'm seriously not sure what I'm going to do about that. All right, I do not see a strategic move. There's no... I mean, I'm not going to pull anything off the north against the Finns, and I'm not going to pull anything off the south from the Turks. I mean, there's a thought of possibly moving this guy from Novorossiysk, but that might just tempt the Germans to just go ahead and run across and grab it because it's 2 willpower. But more importantly than the willpower, it is a supply source and a reinforcement place. So I'm not going to leave this on garrison. And I don't really want to, abandon what little bit of the Don headed south that I hold. Well, I don't see any strategic move, so I'm not going to do it. I tend to like to use a strategic move with the Russians to, save myself a production point at this point, because you're at 18. But I just didn't see one. So here's the Axis operations. There's not a lot they can do. They're going to try and make it so that this guy here can retreat and not get flipped. Thinking. Is that a good idea? 1, 2, 3, 4. -1, so it'd be +3 and halved. He'd be 0. +3 and halved to 0. That means the best I can get is a 5, so he doesn't even have to commit, like, tanks or anything to this. Might force a retreat. I'm looking at the Germans at 25. Trying to see what else I really need to move. That would be the best thing because it would give me retreat routes all around the place. Threatens me to possibly isolate this guy, so he's got to, think about that. Then my other problem spot is down here, and I'm trying to think if there's any way I can make that a little bit stronger. Well, I could play that shenanigan. That's a good thing to try and show people. Yeah, I'm not going to do a whole lot with the Germans here. I think the biggest thing of this turn is going to be, the Germans can't add anything to this because they are suffering. You see, they're under severe weather there. But now go highlight a Russian unit. Oh, it says severe. You really should change that. But based on stop it. Based on the this counter, the Soviets inside the Soviet Union are actually in poor. So while they'll be like -2 against going somebody in a forest, that's all they are. So the trick with the Russians is to try and get 2 shock armies and 1 infantry unit. You usually have 2 groups of these that you can use in poor weather. And then you use a tank marker on the infantry guy to make him a +1 in poor weather. Each shock army is +2 in poor weather. So now you're up to +5. If you can throw in an airplane, you're at +6. -1 for the weather, maybe even -2. You're probably going to be anywhere from +5 to or +4 against a German army because they're all 2s. Because severe weather takes away any armor bonuses, blah, 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 blah. So +4 to +2 is usually a retreat. You can get them to retreat, then, you can possibly advance into a city. If you're +5 to 0 or to 2, that means you're attacking like in the clear, or even a +5 to +4 or +4 to +2, some woods hex or something, and you're pushing them back. And the idea is over 3 turns like this, you want to push the Germans like out of a city or out of a really good, attacking position, putting yourself in a better defensive position. That's your goal in the Russian winter. You will not have a spectacular. Some people have reported having a spectacular success and like breaking through and running all over, Russia and ending up like almost back to the start line and stuff. That takes a German player leaving you a pretty big weak hole. It's like the one I was talking about down here. This guy right here. That's one that could happen to you. You get a +5 to +2, and you get a 6-1 split. So that's that's an 8 to a 3 half down to a 2, so he becomes DD'd. He moves there, and then you have units behind there that move in and attack him again, and then knock him out, and then like one last unit that just runs across and grabs the city. That takes some planning, and the Germans are going to see it coming. If the Germans don't react to it, shame on the Germans. Because usually if I see that much massing around a specific point, I look at that point and go, who do I have keeping, if he suddenly evaporates somehow, who do I have behind him to stop him? If you don't have anybody behind you, yeah, you're in trouble. And you need to do something about that. Okay? It's as simple as that. You cannot function that way. All right? It's just kind of the rule. So I'll show you some moves that I'm gonna try here as the German in the east to deal with that. Anyway, let's go ahead and do this attack here. See what we can do. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm a grand total of +3, but I'm halved, which means 3 plus 6 is 9, halved to a 5. So the worst that's going to happen to the Russians is their retreat. Now I could make it a +1. Okay, so you see here, I have a 6, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have a 1 in 4 chance of retreating him. He has a 1 in 4 chance of ASing me, but there's no AA. If I had a Russian tank, just to show you the difference. Now there's only a 4 in 36 chance. So 1 in 9 instead of a 1 in 4, I think the other one was. So 9 in 6. 9 in 36. The ASs don't matter. There is a 6-1 split in my favor would actually flip that German unit. But since the primary unit is protected on his flanks by 2 other guys, the assault on him probably wouldn't do much more than just retreat him. So that's not an issue here. The real question is do I want to have those tanks markers for my offensives? Can I afford to be retreated from this position? And I think that the short answer is no, I cannot afford to be retreated from this position. This is the one place where I can possibly get that really good assault number. So even at -2, I should be +4 to +2. Maybe I can get a retreat. Then I have one guy left over who can then attack it. If I fly the airplane in, it would be +1, 2. It would be like 0 to 0, and I might have an actual chance to knock the Germans out of Bulgaria and destroying a unit at the same time. And if the first attack doesn't work, then I just don't do it. So I think I'm gonna cut my things up there. So, yeah, I think I need to try and hold the hex. So that's what we're gonna do. The Germans can't really. I mean, they could fly that airplane, but there's no point because it doesn't add any points. See if you. Right, you click there. Just notice that the +3 didn't change. It doesn't add the airplane in. The only reason why you would fly a German airplane is if it was at 0 sorties, let's say, and the Russians flew an airplane in, then you would have a chance of actually being able to cause the Russians to take 2 sorties for that defensive error or that offensive error or something like that. That's the only reason why you would ever do it in severe. I don't think I've ever seen anyone fly it in combat in severe weather. I have seen people ground strike, like the Germans will ground strike a full strength Russian aircraft, just so it doesn't have enough, it has less sorties to actually help in combat. But I've never actually seen anyone fly it in a ground support role where it can add its points in. It's just not action economy, I guess is the best way to put it. Alright, so here's this attack up in the north woods of Russia. I don't know what forest that is. I know it's got a name. I think it's a fairly famous forest in Russia, isn't it? Those are my Russian friends that have watched this in the past. Let me know. Alright, we're just going to go. Do we get it? And the Russians are going to commit their armor to keep the hex. Yep, no effect. Alright. So the Germans are like, oh well, that's disappointing. Now I'm going to try something I've seen done. This does leave me... Let's see, he'd be -2. He could bring down an airplane and get 1, 2, 3, 4. -2 would be +2 to +2. So that could be an issue. But I've seen this done before, and it seems to make sense. I'm of two minds with the Germans. One is, he's really not in a position to do, except for right here, a +5 attack on anybody. So I can live with that. The thing that I'm worried about is him like moving this infantry here, this infantry here. That gives him, you know, he throws a tank, he has 2 tanks and an airplane. So he'd have a +1, +2, +3, 4, +5, -2. He'd be +3 to my +2, which is not the greatest odds. But by the same token, if you do something like this, now what this risks is that he can probably do something on this side where he attacks from here and from here. I think I worked out the odds best he can get is 2 armored units and an airplane, so that's a 1, a 2, 3, and then a 4 for an airplane, -2. So that's a +2 to a +2. And I think I'm going to move a reserve type unit there. Then my other thought is don't give him any attack at all. Because I've seen this done. I want to see what this looks like, see if the Russians can take advantage of it. Since I'm playing myself, I can try things. Me, myself, and I are arguing about this. And we're not going to actually assault it or anything. But what we've done is there's no direct attack upon the cities to take them. He has to do an indirect attack, force me to retreat, and then have somebody move in behind the combat. 2, 3. He still can get a 3-hex attack on this infantry, but his retreat route then would be back into the city. Same thing applies here. If he comes in with 2 guys to attack me from like here and here, I can choose who to retreat from. So I can choose like, I'll retreat from this guy and move back into Tula. And he still can't, he could run somebody in through and capture Razan that way. But we're going to try this and we'll see what the Russians can do with it, okay? So I've spent, the Russians can't really mount a huge offensive this turn. I might lose Bologaya. That's the way it goes. I'm pretty much in the positions I want to be in. I really don't like this Yugoslav out here all by himself, but he can only be attacked by 1 guy right now across the river and into a swamp. So right now he's -3. So I think I'm fairly safe in poor weather there. The one thing I was worried about, I have some space here, you know, as far as physical space to get to the city. I know I had the Yugoslavs behind this one. I think I'm more worried about the Yugoslavs being cutting off anything from the north. Maybe that's what I should have done. I think I know what my rail move should have been. Silly boy. Oh, I know why I had these 2 Yugoslavs down here. Because if he brings in Greece, I don't want them running up and taking out Yugoslavia. They're already going to give the Italians grief. If I take out Russia, then we go back to having political stuff. And there's a pro marker in Greece, which, you know, can be bad for Turkey. They can run over and just grab the city and stuff. So I wanted to have these guys in here to keep that from happening. As they run over there, then I run down here, and he's out of supply. We start playing supply games and things with each other. But I really think I should have probably pulled one of these Yugoslavian units, these garrison units, just to be a speed bump in the back of my line. So that was the German strategic move I probably should have made, rather than the garrison unit. Oh well. I do have a Yugoslav marching along. He's not really going to get to where I want him to be, but he'll be in the vicinity. Hello, vicinity. Charge! Charge with the Yugoslavian garrison unit. Takes him forever. So he can't quite get where I want him to be. I really wanted him in Bryansk, but I don't think the Russians can force... I mean, there's possibility they can take back Tula and or Razan. We'll just have to see how their attacks go. I didn't really have anything to do with the Romanians. The Finns, not really. Is even a low supply German is as good as a Russian army? Because they're both zeros. I mean, he could try to mount something at Vyborg, I guess. Does he has armies to build? So he could attack me out of Vyborg if he wanted to. Five, six, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5. So I'd have to use 2 sorties just to get to like Leningrad. Leave me with 4 sorties. And I'd have 1 attack there, and then I'd be in the range of the German and Italian air to pound me into 6 sorties every turn. Yuck. Alright, Germans. Is there anything to do with the Turks? No. Down here in the Middle East, we're in severe. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, minus 2. I'd be plus 1. Okay, here's a pot shot, I think. So if I assault with the Germans, and then I assault with the Italians, hello, Italians, and lead with the Germans, I think, yeah, we're at plus 1 to plus 1. And now he can throw in the free forces, try and give himself better odds. I can't throw anything in, so there's no point for me even trying. So right now at plus 1 to plus 1, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, you know, there's a 5 in 36 chance that I force a retreat, okay? If the British play their free forces, there's a 2 in 36 chance, okay? There's only a 2 in 36 chance. But if I use up the free forces, then I don't have it to try and bust out of here if I ever get into a poor weather. Unless I roll like a 1 or 2, in which case I'll get it back right away. I think it's crucial here for the British to hold on to Basra, so I'm going to play it. Because this is one of the situations where if it's severe down here, the Germans and the Italians, you know, they're basically plus 1 to plus 1. And it's like it's a long shot die roll. It's not unlike what the British did against the Germans to try and push them out of Basra. It's like I had a long shot, I had like a plus 5, minus 3, so it's plus 2 to plus 2. Okay? And I won the die roll split. So the British are trying to mitigate the die roll split. The Germans need a 5 or 6, I think. Is that right? Sure. No, they need a 6 to even have a chance. And then the British need to roll a 1 or a 2. So we're talking about a 2 in 36 chance here of them taking Basra. We don't want them to do that this turn. So let's confirm this attack, and we will commit to this attack. And it is no effect. And then we look down here. Of course, the Western Free Forces delayed 6 turns, so you knew that was going to happen. The minute I committed it, it's like, okay, the Free French and whoever else make up the Free Forces all decided to go take a vacation down in, I don't know, West African coast somewhere. Who knows? They've gone off someplace. Gone to America for training in arms, or more just arms. Probably better trained than the American Army right now. Okay, yeah, that was bad for the West. All right, the Turks do have what was I going to do here? Not worried about a British invasion, so I think I was going to move one Turk down here. This is sort of my mobile reserve. The British, you know, if I fail and the British somehow break through, I don't want them running like all the way to Baghdad without having to fight somebody. And then by the same token, the Russians, the Soviet Union, I don't want them to be able to run too far if they break through me on the Turkish front. So I'm just going to go throw a garrison like in Erzurum or something just to slow him down if he starts bouncing through there. Now I've got 22 points left with the Germans. I don't have anything to build. 2 points. Let's see, how many airplanes do I have? I have 1 in the Middle East, 2, 3. I think all my ones in the... I gotta get this one down, 4. And then the convoy is 5. So I got 15 points to do on replenishment. Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to stop here with the Germans. I don't really see any other humongous moves. The Italians have sort of... Oh. Do I want to be in Grande? Okay. I don't want to give him ports. Even if I give him an isolated attack, he ends up in that port, and then I can isolate him back. Okay. That's to prevent the British from just, you know, suicide running, sending someone into Malta, a convoy in like Force H, and then lifting them up and doing a surprise attack into Sicily, trying to knock Sicily out, and then, you know, bringing in like the BEF or something and trying to establish himself in the central Mediterranean. Don't want to give him a port, make him fight for it. The Italian fleet really isn't in a proper place to intervene there. So I probably should do something about that. Well, he's got 2 sorties on him, right? So let's concentrate on the same fleet. So he's going to move... Because he could invade from Gibraltar into Palermo. So I need to be on C-Zone 22. Question is, do I want to be in... I think I want to be based in Catania. What's the sortie situation on Force H? Oh yeah, the British probably would blow a sortie even... No, in severe weather they wouldn't because they're -1. They only be +1 and halved. Yeah, let's do that. This is an interesting discussion. So I move. I want to be sitting in Palermo with this fleet. How do the British have to decide? I'm going to do it just so you can see the modifiers in severe weather for a carrier. Normally I probably wouldn't even bother. But notice it's +2 for being a UK USA naval unit, But in severe weather, the carriers are actually -1, so they're only +1 naval units. And then I have a sortie, so I'm a 0. And the Soviets, the Italians have a 0, okay? Or a -1 because they have a sortie on them because they start at 0. And then we're both halved because of severe weather. So we're both going to end up being halved on our die rolls. So not a lot's going to happen here. Yeah, see, they had a 1 divided by 2. I have a 2 down to a 1 divided by 2. So, nothing there. Now, they say this, but you can't. This can't actually be used. This box pops up, but it's not legal because I don't own Gibraltar, and there's no way that that thing could get to me. But now I'm in Palermo with 2 sorties. He's in Gibraltar with 2 sorties. And the idea is if there's any kind of naval movement here, now I can try and soften it up, and then this guy too. The idea is to run up enough sorties on the convoy that's bringing, trying to get to Malta. They're trying to make it so that it's not in the greatest of shape when it gets there. If not the convoy, at least the escorting fleets. And then if he tries to do an amphibious invasion, hopefully you can get off, a good enough fleet attack that you can make him very vulnerable for the following turn. The idea. All right, I don't really think there's anything else I want to do. I really don't want to move any other Germans. Have the Yugoslav garrisons kind of... I probably should move this garrison for the Yugoslavs while I have the points to waste. Should probably move. It could be here. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Could take Nice. So I think I want to be in this city instead. A little further south. And it's like, why am I worrying about the possibility of the activation of Greece? Well, if it happens, I'm probably not going to have the ability to move Yugoslavs around when it happens, because I'll be busy doing something else. So the idea is to have everybody sort of kind of in place and not worry about them until it happens. If I manage to collapse Russia, you'll probably see me move a German infantry down here just on the off chance that the Greeks come in and I actually have to go deal with them. Okay? So, yeah, it's kind of like you need to think that far ahead. Honest to goodness, you do. I see way too many Axis players worry about this turn and maybe next turn. And they don't think about where am I going to be in August of 1942. What's the situation going to be, that I'm going to have to think about. Because like right now, my biggest issue with the Germans is that the British are holding out in Kuwait and Basra. And I can't really afford to have the British holding out in Kuwait and Basra. I need them to go away, and it's not working. So they aren't going away. They keep staying there. And it's going to get worse now because I'll have American convoy that can do the supply duty. Okay. I think the Germans are done. I don't think I left any holes. All right, Germans are done. We will see if the Germans are done. I would do a supply all, no convoy. See if I have anybody with no supply. Yeah, well, we know this guy always goes to Helsinki. Alexandria, Benghazi. I think this guy is that one. Is that the guy I have guarding Suez? Let's double check. See, I'm in this situation where I don't want to use... I've got a Benghazi. I've only got 10 points. Benghazi. Alexandria, Alexandria. I might have to leave one of these guys. One, two. Why is he using 3? What am I supplying here? 1, 2. Oh, 3, 4. Where's the German? Is he up top? Oh, he's up there. So I have 3 going into Alexandria. I really think this guy needs to go there. So if I make him go limited supply, now I should be 2s across the board. Now I have the Germans supplying everybody up here in Norway. It's severe weather, so I'm just going to supply the airplane. Because he can't invade me, so I don't care. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that should supply all the important people. The one guarding Tripoli and the one helping the Germans down in Iraq. So now in the west, I could move this guy up here and then attack with the VEF and him. That would be, he's a -1, +1, which would be 0 to 0 and halved. Or I could be a +1, -1, +1, so I could be a +1 to 0 and halved. You might think, well, go ahead and do it, right? Got to think a little bit here. If you do that, you're leaving this garrison unit sitting here. And let's say, God forbid, they roll a 1 next turn. Why is a 1 important? If they roll a 1 in the warm zone, they will get fair weather. And that garrison is not going to hold up. It just isn't. Which means you're going to have the Germans probably do a breakthrough. They'll move the Italians back to defense position. They'll break through that unit, take Kuwait, move back. They'll have, it's just not a good idea unless I'm going to put like the BEF into Kuwait so that I have real units defending the ports there, which I may do here before too long. The biggest thing to do with the British, I think, so I'm only at 10, and I really like to get this airplane down. This guy's going to go up to 5. This guy's going to go up to 4. So I need to get one of these guys out of here. The question is where should I put the American fleet and convoy? Which one of these do I pull out? I'm thinking I'm going to put it in Kuwait for now. The German Air Force is going to be a pain in the butt next turn. Ugh. I mean, Kuwait has to supply 2 units, whereas Basra is only supplying 1. It's a tough decision. I really want the American convoy down here because of its freebie kind of status. Because what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to save points so I can get this convoy down some sorties so that I can actually move the BEF or threaten to move the BEF. Right now there's no threat. The Germans aren't worried about it at all. So, question is where's the better place to be put? If he runs me up to 6 sorties here, then the main defensive unit, so it's got to be this one that has to move. And he's going to actually move into the Western Indian Ocean. The reason being is if I can't get much farther, and from here I can reach all the way to Eastern North America if I need to, or I can swap back for somebody down here depending on where our sortie count is. Then we want to go to America. We're just going to take this convoy, and we're going to click there. We're going to confirm. Escort, and then we're going to scroll all the way over here. I counted right, and I'm going to land here. And kaboom. See the American fleet come sailing by. And the reason why I put it there with the fleet is so that when the German aircraft tries to attack and take that convoy out, they have to go through the fleet first. So that can take them several turns. Okay? Meanwhile, I'm busily trying to, get the BEF down here in Kuwait so that I can have a real, offensive against the Italians and try to push the Germans back towards Baghdad. Whether we make it that far or not, considering we just rolled severe weather here in the desert, in the warm zone, so lots of sandstorms and stuff up here. Desert's still fair, but I need to get the BEF into the Arabian Sea somehow so that I can threaten to reinforce Kuwait and then use him the following turn. Or since I still have my surprise attack marker on, now I start to threaten Suez, and then he has to spend points to keep that Italian in supplies so that it can fight properly. That's one of the things one of my allies in a game is constantly keeps leaving his Western units in low supply. He makes an advance but doesn't see the supply traps or whatever. And he ends up losing units that, it takes him you don't have it for your turn that you lose it, and then the end of the following turn is when you actually rebuild it, and it's not until the end of the following turn, so you're talking about like 3 game turns that you don't have the unit. Not a good thing to lose guys in low supply. All right, and I think that's all I'm going to do with the Brits. I'm not going to make that silly attack. So let's pass and do our supply. We're not going to remove anything this time. All right, so first off, we do the easy one. Now we're going to do, this one is one where, think about it with the Germans, but I don't have any shenanigans I want to do with my convoy. So I see no reason to go after him in severe weather. I mean, he'd be -1. -1.5 and I'm +1.5. Not very likely I'm going to do more than one sortie on him. So, yeah, I'm not even going to bother. Well, he still is strapped. Yeah, we will. So we need to click on a friendly port. Yes, I know. We're going to click on that friendly port. And we're just going to do it just for kicks. And I didn't get anywhere. I needed to roll like a 5 or a 6 to even have a chance. So it was pointless. But now this guy will go 2 on the UK and 1 on the US. So supply those guys all. And we're happy. Alright, now we're into the Soviets. Got a few things I need to try and do. See, with only 18 points, and I've got 4 guys that I want to get on the board. right? So 4 guys on the board is 4. That leaves me with 14. If I really want to get all 3 airplanes, that would leave me only with 5 guys I can move. So I'm probably not going to do more than maybe 1 airplane at this point. I'm just trying to see if I have a... Where's the best attack? 1, 2, 3. Boom, 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 boom. He retreats into there. This guy's the best candidate for an attack. The problem is... So I guess the question is do I want to try to take back Bulgaria? Or do I want to try and bust this open? The reason why I'm hesitant to try and take on is that the German 15th Army in... I'm going to zoom this in a bit so I can see the... Oops, I'm going out. So I can see the hex numbers. He's in 2355. Between the 2 cities. That's a tempting target to go and try and hit. The problem is odds on is I'm going to, even if I get a DD, I don't have the units to back up and chase him. And try and get another DD and capture cities and stuff. If I force him to retreat, he can retreat like into Tula, so then I could possibly move in and take Razan, and then the Germans have to try and fight their way out of that. But the problem I see is that this armored unit, there's no way I can cut this armored unit really off because of zones of control, which means that it just gets to go, 1, 2, 3, so heck with you. I suppose I could push this infantry up. Wow. It's a complicated operation here. And what are my odds? I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's only a +3 to a +2 in halved. So I might get a retreat. But then I need to be able to move an infantry unit into here. I'm trying to think of where I have to be to make this effective. He would have to go to there. He would have to go to there. He would almost have to go stick his neck out to here. My goodness, Tonto. That's an expensive operation. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Huh, 5, 6. So up here it would only be 4. This is +3 to +2. This would be plus... One for the tank, 2 for the shock is 3 minus 1 is +2 to +2. +3 to +2. Or +4 to +2. Well, this is going to be there for a while. Maybe I try and do that in January. Wow, I really don't know what to do. All right, my initial thought was to do this, so I'm going to do this. So I'm going to go here. Goes here. And assault's there. This guy, believe it or not, goes here. And assaults. And he's the initial attacker. Give him a tank, so I'm... Oops. Forgot to move. We wanted to make this as good of odds as possible, so we're going to move this guy here. Assaults. Flew the airplane. Damn it. +2 to +2, or I could be +4 to +2, and then the last guy is going to be a 0 to 0. Yeah, I think the idea was to flip him for sure. So, do that. Germans aren't going to bother to send their airplane. Let the Russians use up their sorties. And I got a... Okay, this is almost a 6-1 split. 5 plus 4 is 9, but I'm not halved or anything because of Russian winner. This is a good example. I got something I can show you. So this is, you know, what the Russians can do, because by having 2 shocks, that's +4, +1 for the tank for the base guy. That's +5 minimum, +6 for the air support. Even at -2 for a city in poor weather, I still was a +4. I rolled high, got a 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. 6 plus 4 is 10. The Germans, the minimum they can get is a 2 with a 1 die roll, which is what they got. Well, a 9 to a 2 is a DD. And in this case, the Germans don't have a retreat route, which was the important reason for doing this. So they have been, poofed out of the city. So I'm going to actually take it with the shock army. And the reason being is that even if they attack me back, I'm a minimum of a +1. If I had an infantry unit there, I could be a +1 for the tank and a +1 for the airplane. This airplane, if it stays here, is just going to be negated by like the Italian Air Force because it only has 2 sorties. So there's really no reason to stay here in range for the Russians. So the Soviets are actually just going to fly him back into the safe haven, so he can't be counter-aired, and build him up. All right. Now I have 15 left. Now this is something that I also wanted to point out to people. I can sit here and try and defend this, for a while. Oh, that's right. I don't need to do that because of the weather. When it gets closer to being fair weather and the Germans might think about bringing their convoy back over here and supplying this guy, once I start looking like I'm going to be facing a major offensive, this guy, I'm just going to show you where he needs to move. He would need, stop it. He would need to move to here. And the reason being, he's adjacent to Leningrad, and Leningrad's adjacent to him, so neither one's ever isolated until you get rid of one of them. He is behind a river and in the woods. So he's -2 to attack here. Okay? He's actually a bigger minus than the guy in Leningrad. The difference is Leningrad can have you on top of the -1 for the city. But by keeping these two together, it requires you to basically, you have to get rid of this one in order to take on Leningrad because it won't be isolated. Okay? So at some point, I will do that with the Russian. The most ideal way to do this is to have, like, the Germans move the Finns up and the Germans and the Finns attack me. You know, like in poor weather or something, they fly an airplane up or whatever, and they try and move me. And then once they try to move me, I just retreat behind the river. But if you're going to get to fair weather, like, say, at the end of April, and we know that he's going to get fair weather, you know, we don't know, but he has a chance of getting fair weather, that's when I will move him adjacent to Leningrad so that he can't get, like, a lucky DD and then it's easy to kill him, even in behind the river. I'd rather be behind the river at full strength and make him, you know, it also costs 4 movement points to attack across that river, which means that infantry is going to get 2 shots at me at best. All right. So now I'm looking around. I'm thinking. I'm thinking I need to, like, just advance my army so I can actually threaten things. Because I don't have any. I mean, I have 1 tanks marker. I do have a partisans marker. I almost dropped that on Bullet-Goya, but I didn't. Is there anything I can do with a partisans marker that would be... Maybe that's what I do. We try and pull off the operation since I still have a tank left? Maybe we do try this. Let's see, I'd have 1, 2, 3, -1, +2 to 0. It only forces a retreat. But then that means I can move. Two, three, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, let's try this, see if it works. We're gonna come out of Moscow, come out of our hole. Gonna move here. Gonna move here. Gonna assault here. He's going to assault here. And then we're gonna do this. That's where I should have flown him to begin with. 4, 5. Assault from here. Add a tank, add an airplane. So, high probability of a retreat. All right, let's see if we can pull this off. Okay, so it's a defender disrupted, which is bad for the Germans. So I have to decide where I want him to go. You know, I could go here and just give him both cities. Means he has to move infantry into those cities somehow. Could go to Tula, and that makes him have to attack me. And he doesn't really have a good avenue of attack because he's out of range of his airplane. Oh, I didn't even throw the partisans on there. Ah, so dumb. I was going to throw the partisans on him, which would have made him a 1. Still would have only been a DD, so it wouldn't have mattered. Where to go with the Germans? I think I want to make him have to roll the dice, and then I'll shift the line. Alright, we're going to go here. Yeah, I think I'd have to take it with this guy, right? And then this guy. Now, normally in a normal, like, November turn or whatever, I would just stop here. So I have 3 airplanes for 9 and 4 guys to build, which would have been 13. But I'm not going to rebuild this airplane in the south. So I really want to take back my city and cause this German infantry grief. So I'm going to go like this. So now I don't have any assets to actually put on here. But I could throw partisans on that to try and break through it. I would only be +1 to 0. So I would need to get like a 6-1 split, or again, I need to get another one of those splits. And then he would have problems. So we're going to go for broke. We're going to try it. So we're trying for a spectacular breakthrough to make good movies. Don't know that it's going to work, but we're going to try it. Now, I could go whole hog, as they would say, and fly this airplane up here. Yeah, I'm going for broke here. So I'm going to fly this airplane up to here. Maybe. And then we're going to assault. Go ahead and throw the airplane in. So it's only a +2 to a +2. So maybe I don't want to do that yet. This is where I was going to, that's what it was. We're going to play our partisans. We're going to say the heck with strategic warfare. We're going to try and make a spectacular breakthrough. So we're going to put the partisans on this hex. Okay. And then we're going to assault. And throw the world in it. So now I'm +2 to 0. So I'm hoping for another one of those 5s or 6s, you know, where I get really high, and that he gets a low number at 0. Now the Germans could go ahead and fly their airplane here to try and add extra sorties to me. It's not worth it for the Germans at this point. So I'm not going to bother because it doesn't help my combat. So we confirm and we commit. And all I got was a DR, which was not what I needed. I really needed a DD there because I really don't have anybody left. Just to show you what would have happened, if this would have been a DD and I got rid of him, this guy would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8, or run across the river and just, you know, be a Russian army behind his lines or something like that. But I really don't have the armies to to get over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could attack at -1, because it'd be a 0, -1 for the river, -1 for the weather, +1 for an airplane, would be -1 to 0 to -2 and halved. And then I have to figure out a way to keep this guy in supply and not screw up my lines too badly. No, I don't think I can go any farther, much as I want to. So now the question is do I shore up the line? And I think I have to. Alright, so now I gotta put myself... The reason why I'm... Oh, I don't want to put him there. Yeah. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this guy here. Since I'm moving anyway. Oh, come on! Why does it slow down like this? This is ridiculous. So I'm just going to go +2 to +2. I want to save my airplane. And I got lucky. I got in retreat. So I'm going to advance with... Yeah. So I'm going to advance with that one. And I'm going to end up... The reason why it's important to put this infantry unit here is because between this infantry unit out here and this infantry unit here, I have zones of control here and here. These two units are being threatened with being cut out of supply. So now the Germans or the Yugoslavs, somebody has to move onto these rail lines. Plus, the Russians are also threatening of just running out and across the Don and grabbing all sorts of cities. So the Germans have to deal with this next turn. Okay, so it's not a spectacular breakthrough, but it's a threat. It is going to end up costing me a lot from the Russian standpoint, from the fact that I won't be able to build out all 4 armies. This is another thing I have found with the Russians. The Soviet armies, everybody's like, oh, build all the armies, build them right now. I've come to the point now where I like to have at least 1, sometimes 2 armies just sitting in my mobilization pool. So that when the Germans make their spectacular breakthrough or whatever, then at the end of the turn, it's like, oh, by the way, here's a couple armies that you didn't think could get, could plug the hole, and you were just going to keep on running. It's like all of a sudden they have to stop up and go, dang, I have armies that I actually have to face, because they might think they've got 2 turns before you bring anything back. So I've taken to keeping a couple armies, especially when I get to the, the 4 extra ones that you get. I don't mind keeping a couple of extra ones there. So I have to spend 1 here to flip this guy, and I want to do at least 1 airplane, and then maybe I'll, build like 2 guys. So this airplane would just get run up to 6 for no good reason. So I'm going to put him back where I had him. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which I believe was here, so he's just in range of defending Tiflis. So I'll have 20 points next turn, so that's something. But, yeah, I'm not. The Russians don't have enough. Sal supposedly is tinkering with changing the East Invaded rules to where the Russians get like an extra Urals factory or something, and then the 4 shock armies are actually tied to the East Invaded, which historically makes sense because it was like until when the Russian front was starting to look like it was going to disintegrate, Stalin swapped out some lower quality infantry units and brought the shocks home, so to speak, and put them in the line in the east, and they made the difference. So, timing it to when the Germans come into East Invaded might be important for helping the Russians not end up in this situation. So now I've gotten very lucky with the Soviets. I've recaptured 2 of my cities. I'm threatening to cut off some German units here, which is good. And I actually eliminated a German army, so I've knocked him down by 1 will point. Oh, I have 2 I have to do here. 1, 2 shock armies. 2 shock armies. Okay. So I think we're done. We've done our damage. I have to think about if I'm going to bring back an airplane for the next turn, and where that. I'm thinking the one in the center. I really need to have a couple of sorties just to try and mess with the Germans. It's very hard to play the Soviets at this point in time because of. All right, the Italians have 10. They didn't use. I still only have 2 sorties on my aircraft, but I really think that I should get the fleets up to speed because the aircraft is really not useful in severe. Oh, this is voluntary elimination. No. I don't want to do any of those. I thought I checked the box. Why did I do that? Why did I do that with the Soviets? I'm confused. I thought I checked the boxes. I must not have been checking the boxes. All right, now we're in replacement. So the Germans are like, well, I got to do my 2 infantry for sure, right? Now, quandary time. The Germans could, at this point, there's really not a lot they can do with their aircraft, okay? If you notice, they're missing something. They used their surprise attack marker. So as the Germans, I'm not going to bring down any of my airplanes this turn. The Italians are going to bring down their fleets because they're the supply chain, right? And they want to be able to oppose the British in the what is it, eastern, north, south, east, western Mediterranean. At least somewhat. Okay, so the Italians are done with theirs. The Germans are not going to bring down their airplanes or their convoy. They're going to build their surprise attack marker this turn. So they're done. And the British are like, oh crap. Well, you always do the easy one first. And they go. Now the British have 10 points. Okay. They do have an airplane that I'd really like to get on the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these 2 here. You got to do the, what is that, 4th convoy? Got to do the 4th convoy because he keeps these 2 guys in supply. And I'm going to bring this airplane down. Even though the Germans didn't bring theirs down, I want to bring mine down to 0 so that next turn, when the Germans are starting to head down here, I can go, I can spend those 3 points like on the one, oh wait, I don't want to do that. That's right. Knowing that the Germans did not bring down their airplane, that changes how I build things. I originally was going to say, well, I just want to be at 0 so I don't have to spend it in the future. But no, because he did that, I want to go back to England, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to do this convoy, the third convoy, because now that means I can move the BEF. Okay, and if I can get the BEF into the Middle East, then, you know, cool beans. We've got things going for us. Now, I still have 4 points left. So I could go back down and do that aircraft. But there's a rarity that the Germans didn't do an aircraft, so there's a very rare chance here for me to go ahead and sneak 2 more sorties back on Med Fleet. So I'm going to do that because I'm thinking long term. I need to have these fleets at or close to their zero sortie thing before the Russians collapse, because the next target is England. Okay. Now the Soviets, they only have 6 points. First thing they're going to do is their 2 ground units, because they're in the front lines. So you've got to get those guys up. Now I've got 4 points left. I could bring down an airplane. If we look, this one has 5 sorties and can't really get anywhere. If I bring him down to 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he'd have to fly up here to being 4 sorties. So that doesn't really help you. I'm not going to attack probably in the North Woods anymore, so my thought was I have, you know, I have this guy here for like 1 defense towards the Turks if we get into, well, they're going to be in severe weather all the time anyway. But this one here, I can just have 2 sorties here in this central area. And also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can defend up to the guy that's west of Ryazan. So I can also defend these guys if the Germans try to mount a serious offensive. Okay, so we're going to do this guy, and then we're just going to build 1 infantry when time comes. All right, so we're done. And the Germans just say, nope, I'm going to get my surprise attack marker. Thank you very much. And the British are... Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was thinking of building this airplane. I screwed up. Oh, well. So I don't have any points left. That's why I wasn't going to do that aircraft. Now, the Russians only have 1 point left, so they're going to build 1 army. And it's got to go... There's only 1 place it can go. The army must go in Moscow, because you cannot leave that open. If somehow the Germans, you know, shenanigan a retreat and can walk into Moscow and take out your fort, shame on you. Moscow was evacuated with the idea that I would have at least 1 point to build there. And then that ends 1941. We'll go into January of 1942. Of course, it's severe in the cold. It's severe in the mild zone, so no invasions into Norway. It is poor in the warm zone. So maybe we'll do some shenanigans down around Basra and Kuwait. Don't know yet. The Germans did go ahead and build their surprise attack marker in December of 41. So that's January, February, March, April. They'll get it back in April. I believe, let's go check the game, the turn track here. Why is it doing that? Get this out of the way. Come on, get this out of the way. Yes, I get my thing back in about the time the British get their bomber command. The Russians got another factory, Urals factory, so they'll be up to 20 production points this turn. The Germans, I think both sides picked up aircraft. So now everybody has an aircraft to build, and the Germans have their 1 infantry that got kaputted to rebuild and send over to the east. They need to get back there before the summer. Yeah, there's not a lot going on here. I will get my surface action marker back in February. They'll get their partisans in February. The West will. I think they have an Ultra now. Yeah, they have an Ultra. I have a submarines. The Russians don't have a partisan, so I will be playing the submarines probably on the West, especially if the Soviets take a factory from me. Because at this point, I need to be ahead in the factory race. Since the Russians won't see their partisans for like forever, till April. yeah, we're doing pretty good. And that's kind of where, so you can see the Russian army is coming with their 4 armored units or whatever, but basically what's on the board is what they have. That's why I'm keeping, right now I have 3, I'll probably build another one next turn. Might even build 2, but I will keep at least 1 army there if the Germans don't kill anything. Germans don't eliminate any Russian armies usually until like March or April. And until that point, I would just want to keep an army in my bucket so that when he does do an elimination, if it causes a hole that he can exploit the following turn, then I can build an army to try and plug it. And that's just sort of a general strategy thing I do with the Soviets. Can't usually do it in Barbarossa because you're having to put those units out almost immediately because, hey, the Russians have all sorts of different avenues that they can run around it. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Interesting trying out different things. I tried some attacks with the Soviets. I can hear my German opponents that I've played against moaning and groaning about my lucky dice. But the whole premise of the Russian army throughout the game, there's really not a lot of strategy and tactics involved in the Russian army. Their strategy and tactics is how many times can I roll the die? Because sooner or later they get a split. And you usually have enough production points that they can afford to, flip over 4 or 5 guys on their attacks, and they still have their production points to bring them, flip them all back over, and it's no big deal. So their idea is, how many times can I roll the dice? I got lucky in that my splits came early, so I got Bologoya with 1 attack. I was expecting to have to do 2 attacks here and use up my other armored marker, my other tank marker, and another airplane sortie in order to get this. I got really lucky here, which allowed this to be tried down here in Ryazan, outside of Ryazan between the 2 cities. So this didn't work sitting on either side. If this guy had held, then these cities would not be touchable because you can't just move into them. So it didn't work the way I wanted it to. But I mean, I'm not in the worst shape here. I can get this armored unit over here. So it'll be a +2 to whatever he throws in for support to try and hold on to this city. And if I push him out of there, I can find ways to get myself back into supply. It's not that hard. Harder than it should be, but it's not that hard. The biggest thing I have to do is I have to make sure that I somehow contain this guy from being able to run south and breach the Don and like run all the way to Orel or something. Which by moving the armored unit back, I do. And then this guy might go into limited supply if I do that, but that's okay. Really, it's okay. So, and then I got a lucky die roll down here too and got a retreat. So, yeah, there's some repair for the Germans to do, but now the Germans don't have to worry about the surprise attack marker, big ticket item. It's done, so now the airplanes will get up to full, and the army can retreat and, set up decent position to start their war in 42 from. That's what I'll be doing. Okay, so anyway, that ends in 1941. That was the December turn, so we'll be starting in January next time. Put this over here. As I've said in the past, I'm Gen608. If you like what you're seeing, hit the thumbs up button. You really like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notify button, and you'll know when I'm going to post again or when I'm going to stream again. I am having to do this early in the mornings on days that I'm not working because most of my family works a second shift or third shifts, and so they're up and making lots of noise in the afternoons. So that's why these are being done early in the mornings, and that's why there's probably not a lot of chat in the chat because people don't get up this early to actually get into a stream. Okay? All right. Well, until we meet again, stay safe. Bye-bye.